your dreams.
So Yixuan's kit is out, and I'm briefly going to go over it real quick. Yixuan is going to be a 5-star Ether Rupture character. I don't know if Rupture is going to be the correct translation, but that's what we're getting. Rupture seems to be a new class, most likely a special OP class just reserved for OP characters like Yixuan. Yixuan is going to be Miyabi level strong. The only difference is that Yixuan will be able to ignore the enemy's defense, and Yixuan also scales off of HP. For her core skill, she basically gets this thing called Shear, and this Shear is scaled off of Yixuan's HP. So when you're building Yixuan, you are going to need HP in the substats since she does scale off of HP. When Yixuan enters battle, she's basically going to be having these points called Fury points, and whenever Yixuan does an attack, she's basically going to be consuming these Fury points. These Fury points will accumulate this thing called the Talisman, which lets Yixuan do her ultimate. I don't know if her ult will have its own decibel bar as well. I'm just gonna assume that she's gonna be able to use her ultimate twice. Once through her decimal bar, and the second time will be through her Talisman mechanic, because I don't think they'll just get rid of the decimal bar for Yixuan, even though she is pretty OP. I do think a majority of her damage is most likely going to be coming from her ultimate if she is able to use it twice through the decibel mechanic and again through the Talisman mechanic. Since Yixuan does need to deplete Fury in order for her to gain Talisman, once she's out of Fury, she's still able to do attacks normally and such, but basically when her Fury reaches 0, you'll be able to accumulate Fury once again. You can also accumulate Fury with dodges as well. Her combat is basically going to be like this. When you first start off playing Yixuan, you're going to have a certain amount of Fury. You deplete the Fury. Once the Fury gets depleted, you get this Talisman, and once you get enough Talisman, you use her ult. And then once you probably have enough decibels, you could probably use her ultimate again. If your Fury is at 0, you can regain it back through her basic attacks, or you can just dodge to get Fury. Once her Fury is at 0, she enters this state called the depletion state. Apparently the depletion state doesn't last very long. Additional abilities with her core passive includes if there's a stun character or support character on the team. When any of those teammates use their ultimate, Yixuan will gain 3 Fury points, so that's another way for Yixuan to get Fury. When Yixuan is switched out by an assist, she will also deal a lightning strike based off of her sheer points, aka which scales off of her HP. So once again, her HP is going to be pretty important for her damage. Also, after when Yixuan uses her ultimate, she'll also get a 40% crit damage. So Yixuan does seem like a ultimate based DPS character since she's able to use her ultimate at least twice. You should be able to use her ultimate pretty quickly depending on how much Talisman you can gather and how much Fury you can gather after her depletion state. I think I forgot to mention that after Yixuan uses her ultimate, she enters another state called, I think it's called like the Grand Tai Chi state. This state will basically let her accumulate Fury points as much as possible, which is pretty important since she needs to deplete Fury points in order to get Talisman in order to use her ultimate. For Yixuan's X special, there's nothing really that crazy going on. However, if you use the Wing Flap X special, if you use the Wing Flap during an enemy flashing red or yellow, she basically gains 12 Fury points. As for Yixuan's Mindscape cinemas, I'm only going to go over the first 2. Since this is still a closed beta, a lot of shit can change, but I'm gonna just go over her first 2 real quick. At M1, she'll have at least 120 Talisman off the get-go, so I think that means she can use her ultimate like right when the battle starts. Also, the crit damage boost from her ultimate will be increased by 20%, so at M1, she gets an additional crit damage as well. Yixuan's M2 will give her a boost of her sheer mechanic. During the 3rd or 5th hit of her basic attacks, a random lightning strike will hit the enemy, which will be be based off of Yixuan's shear, which scales off of Yixuan's HP. Enemies that get hit by Wither's Lightning will have this penetration effect, and if Yixuan hits these enemies with their ultimate that have been affected with the penetration effect, they will basically have more damage dealt to them. So her M2 looks pretty fucking good. Most likely they could change this like with Vivian, but who really knows? As for Yixuan's W engine, it has a base attack of 743, and it also has the HP as the secondary stat, which is important for Yixuan's shear mechanic, since that mechanic scales off of HP. The crit with this W engine, the crit rate will be increased by 20%. So if you are building her as a DPS, obviously the W engine will help tremendously. And when Yixuan uses her X special attack with this W engine, her ether damage will be increased by 10%, and her ultimate damage will also be increased by 18%. Overall, Yixuan does seem like a pretty strong OP character, not to mention she is coming out during the anniversary patch. Anniversary characters tend to be pretty busted, so I don't think you can really go wrong with saving up for Yixuan. I think her new class, the Rupture class, will be a pretty rare class. I don't think it's going to be that common. It might be a class reserved for the special OP characters. Now is probably one of the best important times to play Zenless Zone Zero, with the anniversary coming up. So that's about all. Let me know what you guys think about Yixuan, and I will see you guys later.
Bye bye now. Come again soon.